So thanks, Pat and Gaurav. That was an awesome first session. Always learned so much from you guys. So as Gaurav mentioned, we need to do kind of both the storytelling and on the ground work. We also need to do the data analysis and quantitative work to inform climate and health action. So now for the second half of this educational session, we're really going to turn to more of the data analysis side and give an introduction to approaches that are used, commonly used in quantitative climate and health research. So a lot of the empirical quantitative work on climate and health is, I think, as Pat mentioned, it's more focused on quantifying the magnitude of effects of climate exposures on health. And so, of course, to do this, we have to rely on historic data. So we need to study historic climate exposures to understand how those impacted health. And then that information is critical to inform estimates of how future climate change might impact health. So while a lot more work is needed to fully understand the full scope of climate and health impacts, there's already been a good bit of research done in this space. And in particular, there's a relatively large body of research showing how air pollution of various types is associated with damage to almost all bodily systems. And so this is something that's been studied for the past 30, 40 years, really intensively, and is really well established. There is a smaller but quickly growing number of papers, a smaller body of research that is starting to show the broad impacts of heat and heat waves, hurricanes and floods, and wildfire smoke on health. So next slide, please, Gaurav. So what kind of data are typically used to conduct these historic studies to quantify the magnitude of effects of climate exposures on health? So modern satellite data has really revolutionized our ability to measure certain climate exposures at a global scale. As was mentioned in the Q&A just a second ago, this set of exposures that's routinely measured is relatively narrow. There are still many more things that we need to figure out how to monitor and measure. But satellite data has really helped us take a huge step forward in being able to get reasonably good quality measurements of a lot of different climate exposures globally. And so we're lucky that today a lot of these satellite data products have been translated into high space-time resolution gridded exposure data for some sort of commonly considered climate exposures, as shown here. Another nice thing about these climate exposure data is that the community has been quite good about making them publicly available. And so we've listed here for just 4 common exposures studied in the climate and health space. We've listed some of the publicly available exposure data sets that we're aware of. I'm sure there's more, and the number is constantly growing. And these exposure data can then be linked with a wide variety of health data sources, including administrative data, cohort study data, things like that, to do these historic climate epidemiology studies. Next slide, please, Gaurav. So for the remainder of this session, we're going to, again, be focused on these more quantitative methods for climate and health studies. And we're going to be demonstrating concepts very practically by showing you data examples. And we're going to be focused on a single kind of running example across the rest of the session, where we're going to be looking at the study of the impacts of wildfire attributable fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, on a synthetic mortality data set for California. So I'll explain more about what that means in a second. First, in this study that we're going to be using for motivation, we've pulled in real county level estimates of daily wildfire attributable fine particulate matter concentrations. So this is an example of one of those publicly available exposure data sets that I mentioned. for about a 5-year period. So we have these daily for this 5-year period. If you're interested in this, you can download the data from the link given here. Unfortunately, on the health data side, as you're probably aware, it's harder to make data publicly available for privacy reasons. And so for the demo today, we're going to be relying on synthetic data, which is data that we've generated to look like real health data, but that aren't real, so that we can share them with you and you can reproduce these examples on your own if you want to. So we've paired this real wildfire particulate matter concentration data with our synthetic county level daily mortality counts for the same time period of about 5 years. You can also access this synthetic data set and the code that was used to generate it from the link given here. So this is the example data set that we're going to be working with for the remainder of this session, this sort of wildfire PM exposure data paired with synthetic fake generated daily mortality counts. And the first thing that we're going to do with this data set to demonstrate how you might use a data set like this in real research is to do some exploratory data analysis and demonstrate effective data visualization strategies for this type of spatiotemporal data. And for that piece, I'm going to turn it over to Heather Clifford, who is going to, I believe, now take over the screen share, Gaurav, if you don't mind, to show us how to visualize data. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me just... Got it?
Yeah.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather Clifford. I'm a data scientist at the Institute for Global Sustainability. Today, for my demo, we'll be learning about data visualization and science communication. I'll be exploring how we can effectively convey complex information using an online data visualization tool. It's called Flourish. I'm going to give some examples how I utilize Flourish in my day-to-day work for a science communication project called Visualizing Energy. And then I'm going to give a demo on creating a Flourish chloropleth visualization using Wildfire PM 2.5 dataset from Childs et al. 2022, which Rachel just discussed. So effective science communication is crucial for sharing insights, discoveries, and complex information with diverse audiences. It bridges the gap between researchers and the public, making scientific knowledge more accessible and engaging. I added some best practices that I utilize for my research project for effective science communication, which is 1, to know your audience. So tailoring your message to your audience's level of understanding and keeping it interesting at the same time. Simplicity is key. So keeping your visualizations clear, concise, and easy to interpret, and also helping to guide your users to a conclusion. Tell a story. So use your story to tell a compelling narrative that captivates your audience. Again, keeping it really interesting. And then leveraging Flourish's interactive features to engage your audience. So one thing that Flourish has is it is interactive, which allows you to engage more with the visualization than, say, a static visualization. However, Flourish does have some limitations because it is not code-based. So you kind of have to leverage between the interactive ability and then also the simplicity versus having to kind of figure out how to edit how you want to visualize your data. So I'm going to go through my project right now. It's called Visualizing Energy, visualizingenergy.org. We build data stories to guide an equitable energy transition. We've built this about a year ago. So we've produced about 90 data stories and have about 350 data visualizations on the site right now. We focus on energy justice, well-being, history, sources, and we also have some on health, which I will show a few examples. So these are some of the types of data visualizations and data story titles that we have. I'm going to go through what we have for a data story related to health. This one is titled, Where Are People Dying Due to Indoor Air Pollution from Cooking Fuels? So this project was founded by Dr. Cutler Cleveland at Boston University, and I am also a co-lead with him on this project. So here is an example of a Flourish visualization that we're using within this data story. So as you can see here, this has a header, a caption, a legend, some information down here on the source, and also a logo. And then it also allows us to have some interactive ability on the visualization. So this is a chloropleth map showing deaths caused by indoor air pollution from the use of solid fuels in 2019. And just kind of showing the information that is held within each of these pop-ups that comes up. Also show some other examples. So this is a dot plot for the share of deaths caused by indoor pollution by income class in 2019. And so it's colored by continent, but what's great about this is you can isolate by continent as well. So you can kind of explore more into this data rather than, it's a little bit clustered right now, but if you interact with it, you can kind of get a different message and you can learn a little bit more. And then also it has pop-ups, so it's interactive. So it has a lot more information than, say, a static visualization would have. This is also done using an embed into the HTML. So on our site, we have the data available, metadata, an image, a PNG, and I'll discuss about how you can extract these images once we get through the demo. And then also we have the embed available. The embed is also available on the Flourish website as well. I'm just going to go into this. This visualization does not want to show up. Great. Okay, I'll go to another one. So this is the health impacts from oil and gas production in the United States. This is our translation from a scientific publication that came out in 2023. And this is a chloropleth map of US counties of mortality due to air pollution from oil and gas production in 2016. So just kind of showing a different chloropleth map. And then the types of information that you're able to show within these pop-ups. And then also kind of using this visualization as an example for color. And so using this legend up here, we can kind of be able to show which counties have the highest mortality, and your eye kind of focuses in on these really dark colors. So again, really just helping to guide the user's eyes to what you want to show them and for them to be able to create conclusions based on a visualization. So now I'm going to go to the Flourish site. So this is flourish.studio. This is a free to sign up software. So you go up here, click sign up, you just give them your email, and then it creates an account for you. There is a paid version. It is pretty pricey, but a lot of the visualizations that they have available on the site are free. There's just a lot more flexibility on the back end, and then there's some visualizations that are not available in the free version. So just in general, Flourish is an intuitive and user-friendly data visualization platform. Allows us to create interactive visualizations without any coding or design skills. It does have limitations, so it has less flexibility than coding. So this causes us to have to simplify it a little bit further. So I'm going to sign in here. So this is the back end, how it looks. I have like over 350 visualizations in here that me and my students have produced for the website. So this is just how it looks inside the folders. If I go inside one of these folders, it just shows all the visualizations that have been produced under these IDs. And then you can sort and show different bits of these for the visualizations. And up here, you can create a story. I'm not going to go discuss a story, but it's pretty much a layered visualization. And then over here, you click new visualization in order to create a new visualization. And you can choose between a lot of different templates. So as I mentioned, Flourish has a lot of free templates available. If it's shaded over, that means that it's not a part of the free version, and I'll show that in a second, or you can just click on premium. And these ones are not available, so it's really a minimal amount. So here is some examples of data visualizations that are available. This is line, bar, and pie charts. And so here's a surplus deficit area chart that we had actually shown earlier in during the presentation. We have an area charts, grid of column charts. And what's really great about Flourish is, say if I click on this example, I'll go through all of this interface in a second. But if I click on data, they have data formatted exactly how they would like for it to be put in already inside of each visualization. So no matter what type of format you want to be able to put it in, you can kind of see what the format they would like, take your data, manipulate it, edit it, put it into this format prior to putting into Flourish. And then all you have to do is utilize this section on the right and highlight what columns you would like to use. So I'm going to go through all of this in just a second. I'm just going to show some more of the visualizations that they have available. So they have projection maps. So these are based on shapefiles. These ones already have shapefiles available inside of them in their in the data set, but you can also start with a blank and upload your own shapefiles. They have scatter plots, box plots, bubble charts. They have actually included a lot more data visualizations since I started using it over a year ago, because Canva purchased Flourish, I believe, last February. So they've been continuously upgrading it through time. So yeah, box plots, violin plots, different types of scatter plots, a lot of different options, a lot of different ways that you can format these plots as well. 3D maps, bar chart races, we use these a lot. Hierarchy plots, this one just popped up. This one was not there this morning, so that's kind of fun that they're adding more visualizations in here. So tree maps and sunbursts. So again, like a lot of different options, really fun to explore. Definitely recommend going to the website and checking out the different types of data visualizations they have. So the heat maps. Yeah. So I'm going to go in and show the format of a US county map for a chloropleth map. So in here, we have the data visualization itself, and this is how you edit it. Up here, you can change the sizing of the preview. Here, you can click between preview and data. So this data tab is where all this data is contained. I can go up here and name it map. So we have the regions tab, a regions geometry tab, a points tab, and a lines tab. We're going to not use the lines tab today, and the points are based on Latin lawn, but we're also not going to use that. So I'm actually just going to clear this for right now. And so now you can see that those dots on the plot were removed. I'm going to go back into data and just kind of explain what's happening here. So inside of regions, we have the county FIPS, which is being used as the ID for the geometry. So if I go in here, they have little question marks next to the columns to visualize, and they have an explanation for exactly what you're supposed to be putting in here. And as they mentioned, it's an ID to match values in the region's geometry. So I'm going to go back into here, and I have the geometry layer here. So if I click on this, it's polygons, a shape file already imported in here. And then they have the county FIPS. And so it's already imported that this should be column A and this should be column E to match. And then if I go back to regions, again, the county FIPS is the ID. So then you kind of go into these other columns for the name. So that's a name that appears in the pop-up. A label, so that's if you want a label to be shown on the map. And then the color by, so here they're coloring by a value, but the value is based on the state name. So as you can see in this preview down here, each of these states are colored something different. And then you can also group them, and this one is just drawing borders around the groups of regions, so state borders around counties. And so I'm going to use this information that we have here, and I am going to start with a blank map and create a map of California using wildfire PM 2.5. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to click on new visualization. I'm going to go to this projection map that's blank. I'm just going to name it. Yeah. And I'm going to go into data. And so I'm going to start with uploading information here. So I already have the data formatted into the way that the flourish had shown in that previous example. So I use code to kind of take it from a daily PM 2.5 and then aggregated it into exactly the format that I needed. And then I also have the geometry layer in here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here, add the ID as B, and then I'm actually just going to copy these and add these into regions geometry. So I'm going to put the geometry files in here. And then I will add in geometry as column B, and then the ID as A. And then as you can kind of see down here, this example just popped up for California, but it's not colored in yet. So I'm going to go back to regions. And as you can kind of see, this looks like Excel. The only formatting that you can really do here is sorting, removing, inserting a column left and right. Then you can also change the data type between number, date, and text, which I do not need to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to name it by the county. So I'm going to name it with column E. And then I'm just going to start with adding column V as the color by. So that's going to color by PM 2.5, the summed up PM 2.5 total for 2020. And then I could also add a group or info for pop-ups, but I'm not going to do that. And so I'm going to go to preview and change this just so we can all see the total of California. Okay, so now we're starting with a floor plan map of California. We have a legend up here. We have a search tab right here. And then it's in the color blue. And so I want to format this to make it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to change the projection here. So this tab under projection, you can edit it. I can say world, obviously, we don't want that. We're going to do auto, so it just goes to the bounds of the shape files given. Next, we're going to go into regions layer. And so this is enabled. So fill right here, this is if there was any blank values inside of the map. And we don't have one, so don't need to worry about that. Outlines are on, but I'm going to change this to black to make it a little bit better outlined and then increase the width a little bit. So there's a lot of ways that you can format the visualization itself. It's very straightforward. There's just a lot of different things that you can do, which can be a little bit overwhelming. So we can change the colors of the regions layer between sequential and diverging. I don't think that's really helpful for the user, so I'm going to keep it sequential. You can also bin them, and so you can have a fixed width, change the number of bins. I'm just going to keep it as linear, and then I'm going to change the color scale as well. They have a bunch of different color scales that you can choose from. I'm going to go with yellow, orange, and red. And then for the domain, it's for the legend right here. It's between 408 and 6000. I'm actually going to change that to make it a little bit nicer looking. So it's rounded up and down. And again, with the missing data, you can use a pattern, you can use the fill. I'm just going to keep that same because there is no missing data here. And then I'm going to remove 2 of the decimal places because we don't really need to use decimals here. We can round that up. And then I'm going to add units for a suffix right here. So number styling, you can add prefix or suffix. I'm going to add a suffix so that there is, I'm going to actually add space as well, so that there is units to the values that are being shown. And I'm going to add a shadow because it looks fun. All right, so a bunch of different, again, like a bunch of different options for formatting. Points layer, we disabled that because there's nothing going on there. Globe and graticule layers, we're not going to use that tab. Under controls, so I'm going to show an example of how we would use this control type. So if I go into data, I want to show between 2006 and 2020. So I want to be able to show different years. I'm going to start with H through V. And so I'm able to show a number of different columns. So at the top here, now it's reflecting 2006 to 2020. However, this is not changing now, so I need to go back up to regions layer. Make the domain auto, and then I'm going to base the default scale on current column because clearly there's a lot in 2020 in comparison with these other years. So if we want to kind of just look at these individually, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go back into controls. And so if you can see here, there's a drop down, there's buttons, or there is a player. So I'm going to keep the player because we're going through time. And so you can kind of press play and you can let the player go through and let the user kind of explore wildfire PM2.5 over time. And then I'm going to keep everything else the same for this styling, but there's a lot of options here. Pop-up and panels. So this is the pop-up that you're seeing right here for this county. I'm just going to edit this. You can customize the content inside of the header and also add information into this info for pop-up. So if you have an additional column that has more information, you can add that here. But I am just going to customize the style of it. So I'm just going to customize the header. And then I'm going to change the label weight. So that just makes it stand out a little bit more on top of the visualization itself. But again, like a lot of different ways that you can edit these. Great. So now I'm going to go, I don't think we have to, you can change what the legend is, change the text. But you can also go into layout and you can change the fonts. So I'm going to change the font to Roboto. And then you can change the color of the background, etc. A lot of different ways you can change how the visualization itself looks. I'm going to add a header. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then you can also add a caption below as well. And then I'm going to add a footer down here with a source. That will pop up down here. And then if I just show a little bit more of this, then we have a finalized visualization for the annual total PM2.5 data in California counties from 2006 to 2020. So this is just an example of how we can show a visualization and how quick and easy it is if you have the data in the correct format or to create such a visualization. So I'm going to add also a link to my Flourish Studio, which has, as I mentioned, like over 400 data visualizations, has a bunch of different examples. Visualizing energy also has a lot of different examples for a bunch of different types of data visualizations. Yeah, so I'll add those links in there as well. I have a few other visualizations that I would like to show. So here I create a line plot using total wildfire PM2.5 data in California counties for the top 5 counties with the highest total PM2.5 from the years 2006 to 2020. So this is a line plot. And as you see here, I added the units. We have a y-axis label. And what's really great about Flourish is that when you add a line chart, you also have the availability to scroll through different chart types underneath these examples and just click it, and it will automatically shift to these different types of visualizations. So you can kind of check out, which data visualization you would like to look at. And again, there's no code. You just have to make sure that the data is in the correct format that Flourish is requesting. This one's a bit different from the regions layer. There is only one data tab, and then they have a date or labels and time, and then values, which look like this. Another great thing about Flourish is that you can add annotations and highlights. And so here on the x-axis, I include a line just for an example to show that I can highlight a certain time period to show that there are increased wildfires during this year. And I can also do the same, and I can highlight different year time periods to show, just so I can help guide the user's eyes to a certain point on the data visualization itself as well. Here's another example of a data visualization that I made. So this is, if I go into data, this is how the data is formatted for this one. But what I want to show is that I am using a row filter. So I use this column to create a user-facing row control. This is kind of similar to the player that I had shown for the different years, just a different data visualization format. And so I'm in the controls and filter section, and I can go on down here and I can have a drop down, I can have buttons, or I can have a player. For this one, I like the buttons. And so you can click through and you can look at different daily wildfire PM2.5 data. And again, I added the color here. I changed the color of the line as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can edit this and edit how the X and Y axes are formatted. And then I'm just going to go quickly show another example of this, but this is number of wildfire data days between 2006 and 2020. Again, for these 5 different counties that you can click through. This is the same using the rose filter that I just shown in the inside of here. And then using this exact same data set, I'm going to input for the charts grid. I can just go over here. So I'm going to go into data here. I changed. So if I go in here and so it goes from the preview down here from the visualization that I just showed. I'm going to change it to the charts grid. And then this creates a grid of charts. I also have to go up here and, oh, excuse me, select grid of charts. And then this is the data visualization that we can get out of it. So we can see them all at the same time. And so the last thing I am going to go through is exporting. So you can download the image here. You can download it as a PNG. I recommend hitting the 2x and it will download the visualization as you see it here. And then you can also publish it to share and embed. It's also, you can make it so others can duplicate it. So if you publish it, they give you a link to the visualization that's public. They give you an embed. And I'm going to click on this here. So here is the link. So this is a public link now to this data visualization. I can duplicate it and edit. It also makes the data available. So if you don't want your data to be available, I don't recommend making it so that you can duplicate it. Here's the embed code. You can also share it. Personally, with the website that I have, I screenshot because I find that the PNG that you download from the website or from the Flourish website is not super high quality. So I take a screenshot of the image that I create here, and I feel like it's a little bit more high quality than what they're giving you. And then I also do screen recordings in order to create GIFs for the ones that have animations as well. So why Flourish? I found it to be straightforward to edit and format. There is no coding necessary. They have a lot of helpful examples, blogs, and templates on their website. It's really easy to duplicate and create new visualizations with the same formatting. It's good for students. So for my project, we started out, when I joined, we were using Tableau, and a lot of the students had trouble. It was like every single meeting we had, they were having a lot of technical issues with Tableau. It wasn't easy to duplicate the visualizations. There was a lot of issues, and this we're able to kind of crank out a lot of visualizations for our platform using Flourish. And then also because of limitations, data sets and visualizations must be simplified in order for it to be for users to understand kind of what we're trying to convey through the visualization. And that is all for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather. That was awesome. I learned a ton. I think there was just, last time I looked, there was maybe 1 or 2 questions in the chat. I think one of them was about the number of visualizations that you can use under the free license. I don't know if you know that off the top of your head, but if you have a sense of if it's like a lot or a little.
It's a lot. I mean, I'm probably at like over 500 right now on my account, and there's never been a problem. So I think it's unlimited. I think it's just if you go into the premium version, you'll just see the types of visualizations that you can't use. Those are like the main limitations. And then there's a lot of backend. They have an SDK as well, where you're kind of able to edit the visualizations a little bit more. So that kind of seems like to be the major limitations. But we've been using the free Flourish version for a year. And the only part that we really wish we had was the scrolly telling in the paid version. If you know what that is, it's a really cool feature, and we've been kind of wanting to get it. So, but it's a pretty expensive software to pay for. So, yeah.
So you use the free version?
We use a free version. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Good to know.